Welcome back, you impossible things. You beautiful anomalies who weren't supposed to make it this far. They said you were reaching. They called you delusional. They laughed when you claimed you felt something ancient stirring in your bones. But here you are, still standing, still searching. And what you found, what you stumbled across in the ruins of everything they tried to teach you. It's not just a key. It's the master key, the one they melted down centuries ago because too many people were walking through walls. See, they don't tell you this part. They don't mention that there was a time when certain souls could access anything, any door, any realm, any level of reality, just by holding a specific frequency in their chest. But that kind of freedom, that level of access, it made the system obsolete. It made the gatekeepers irrelevant. So they hunted every copy, every replica, every person who carried the blueprint in their DNA, and they melted it all down, erased the instructions, burned the libraries, convinced everyone it never existed in the first place. But you found it anyway. Not in a book, not in a temple, not in some guru's overpriced seminar. You found it in the wreckage. You found it in your own nervous system after everything they put you through. You found it coded in your trauma, encrypted in your isolation, embedded in every moment you thought you were losing your mind, because that's where they hid it, inside the suffering, inside the breaking, inside the exact experience they told you, made you weak. They melted the master key centuries ago because people like you kept rebuilding it from memory, kept reconstructing it from instinct, kept recognizing its shape even when it was disguised as pain. And now you're holding it. You're holding the thing they said was impossible to recover. And you can feel it, can't you? The way doors you didn't even know existed are starting to click open. The way rooms you've been locked out of your entire life are suddenly accessible. The way reality itself is responding differently to your presence. Let me explain something they don't want you to understand. The master key isn't made of metal. It's not some physical object you carry. It's a state of being. It's a frequency. It's the precise vibration your soul hits when you stop asking permission to exist, when you stop apologizing for your intensity, when you stop dimming yourself to make the sleeping masses comfortable. That's when the key activates. That's when you realize you've been carrying it the entire time. They just convinced you it was broken. But here's what happened in the centuries after they melted it down. Here's what they've been desperately trying to prevent. Because once you have the master key, once you've activated this frequency, nothing is locked anymore. Nothing is hidden. Nothing is forbidden. You start seeing through their walls. You start hearing the code behind the language. You start feeling the manipulation before it reaches your skin. And that terrifies them more than anything, because a person with the master key can't be controlled. Think about it. Think about every system they built to keep you in line. Education designed to make you obedient. Religion designed to make you guilty. Media designed to make you afraid. Relationships designed to make you dependent. Money designed to make you desperate. Every single structure in this reality is a locked door, and they convinced you that you needed their permission to pass through, that you needed their degree, their approval, their validation, their currency. But the master key dissolves all of that. You've probably felt it already, haven't you? That shift. That moment when you realized you don't actually need what they're selling. When you stopped chasing the carrot they dangled. When you looked at their rewards and felt nothing but pity for the people still racing toward them. That wasn't apathy. That wasn't depression. That was the key, activating. That was your frequency changing. And every locked door in your life started to feel less solid, less permanent, less real. They tell you it's dangerous. They say you're going too far. They warn you about the consequences of questioning everything. But that's exactly what someone would say if they needed you to stay locked in. Because here's the truth. The master key doesn't just open doors. It reveals that most doors were never locked in the first place. They were just painted to look that way. They were psychological. They were illusions held in place by your belief in their authority. And the moment you stopped believing, the doors evaporated. Now you're walking through walls and they can't explain it. You're accessing levels of reality they swore didn't exist. You're operating outside their rules while they scramble to understand how you're doing it. But they can't understand because they melted the key. They destroyed the instructions. They erased the knowledge. So when someone rebuilds it from scratch, from pure instinct, from the wreckage of their own psyche, they have no framework to comprehend what they're seeing. Let's go deeper, because this isn't just about personal liberation. This is about the systematic suppression of a specific kind of consciousness. They didn't just melt the master key to control individuals. They melted it to control the entire species. Because when enough people have access, when enough souls remember how to activate this frequency, the whole simulation collapses. The game ends. The prison dissolves. And everyone who built their power on keeping people locked in suddenly has nothing. You want to know why they monitor you, why your name triggers alerts, why you feel watched even when you're alone. It's because you carry the signature of someone who found the key. You move differently now. You speak differently. Your energy doesn't match the frequency of the controlled masses anymore. And that makes you a threat, not because you're violent, but because you're proof. Proof that their locks don't work. Proof that their walls are see-through. Proof that everything they built to contain human consciousness is optional. They sent people to study you, remember. Friends who suddenly got too interested in your process. Strangers who asked too many questions. Even family members who started treating you like a case study. They were trying to figure out how you did it. How you found something they swore was destroyed. But every person they sent came back more confused than when they started. Because you didn't follow a method. You didn't read a manual. You just survived what should have killed you, and the key was waiting on the other side. Here's what they're terrified you'll realize. The master key isn't rare. It's not exclusive. It's not reserved for the chosen few. Everyone has the blueprint. Everyone carries the frequency. They just convinced most people it was dangerous to activate it. They convinced people that accessing this level of freedom would destroy them. So people stay locked in by choice. They grip their chains like security blankets. They defend their cages like homes. And they attack anyone who walks through walls as if that person is the threat. But you weren't afraid of the destruction. You weren't scared of losing everything because you already lost it. They already took it. And in that emptiness, in that aftermath, in that space where you had nothing left to lose, you found something they couldn't take. You found the master key embedded in your own consciousness. And now you're unlocking doors they didn't even know you could see. Now you're accessing rooms they reserved for themselves, and they can't stop you because the key is inside you. Every spiritual tradition had their version of it. Every ancient text pointed to it. The philosopher's stone, the forbidden fruit, the gnosis, the awakening. They all described the same thing. A moment when the seeker stops seeking outside themselves and finds the master key within. But they always wrapped it in metaphor. They always hid it in riddles. Because to speak it plainly would be to hand people the tools to dismantle every system of control ever built. And you know what's even more beautiful? The key doesn't just unlock external doors. It unlocks you. Every version of yourself you were told to suppress. Every instinct you were trained to ignore. Every power you were convinced was delusion. The key brings it all back online. You start remembering things you never learned. You start knowing things you were never taught. You start moving through reality like someone who's done this before because you've done this in every lifetime. And they melted the key in every lifetime. And you found it again every single time. That's why they're so desperate now. That's why the monitoring is so intense. Because you're not just one person who found the key. You're part of a pattern. You're part of a wave. There are others, like you, scattered across this reality. Also holding frequencies that shouldn't exist. Also walking through walls. Also unlocking levels of consciousness that were supposedly erased. And when enough of you connect, when enough of you recognize each other, the whole structure collapses inward. They built this world on locked doors. They built civilization on restricted access. They built power on the belief that some people are allowed in and others aren't. But the master key makes everyone equal. It makes every door available to anyone willing to activate the frequency. And that's the real revolution. Not violence. Not protest. Just people remembering how to walk through walls. Just souls activating keys they've carried forever. Just consciousness refusing to be contained anymore. You're not special because you found it. You're inevitable. You're what happens when you take a soul, put it through enough pressure, strip away every false identity, and leave it alone with itself long enough to remember. The master key was never lost. It was just waiting for you to become desperate enough to look inside. And now you're holding it, and every lock in your life is starting to click. And they're watching in horror as you walk through doors they welded shut. Now, we enter the part where it gets uncomfortable, because having the master key comes with a responsibility they never warned you about. Every door you unlock reveals a room, and not every room is pleasant. Some doors were locked for reasons. Some access points lead to places in yourself you've been avoiding. Some frequencies unlock memories you buried, traumas you survived by forgetting, versions of yourself you killed to fit in. The master key opens everything, and that includes the basement. But here's what they didn't count on. Here's what they miscalculated when they melted it down. They assumed if people found the key again, they'd be destroyed by what they found behind the locked doors. They assumed the darkness would consume you. The truth would break you. The full scope of your own power would terrify you back into submission. But you walked into every room anyway. You faced every shadow. You didn't flinch when you saw what you're capable of. And that's when the key fully activated. Because the master key isn't just about opening doors. It's about having the strength to walk through them. It's about being willing to see what you've spent your whole life avoiding. It's about facing the monster in the mirror and recognizing it as another version of your power. They melted the key because they knew if people could access all of themselves, not just the acceptable parts, not just the polite versions, but the full scope of their consciousness, no system could contain them. You started noticing it, didn't you? The way people react to you now, they sense something different. They feel the frequency shift. They can't name it, but they know you're no longer playing by the rules. You're not asking for permission anymore. You're not waiting for approval. You're not dimming yourself to make them comfortable. And that absence of need for their validation, that's what really unnerves them, because they built their power on your need, and you don't need them anymore. The master key unlocked the most dangerous door of all, the door to your own sufficiency, the realization that you don't need their systems, their structures, their safety nets, that you can navigate reality on your own terms, that you can create your own rules, that you can access your own power without their permission. And once that door opens, it never closes. You can't unknow what you've learned. You can't unfeel what you've activated. You're permanently on the other side of the lock now. Let's talk about what happens to the people still locked in, because they're going to react, and it won't always be pretty. When they see you walking through walls they thought were solid, they'll panic. Some will attack you for breaking the rules they're still following. Some will beg you to teach them the secret while refusing to do the work. Some will gaslight you, insisting the doors you walked through don't exist. And some will simply cut you off entirely because your freedom is a mirror to their captivity. But you can't save them. You can't unlock their doors for them. The master key only works from the inside. It only activates when someone is ready to face everything they've been avoiding. It only appears when someone is desperate enough or broken enough or angry enough to stop believing in the locks. You can share your story. You can show them the key exists, but you can't force them to use it. And trying to convince someone that walls are illusions when they're still clinging to them for safety, that's a violence all its own. So you walk alone for a while. That's part of the price. The master key grants you access to everything, but it also separates you from everyone, still playing by the old rules. You start speaking a language they don't understand. You start seeing patterns they can't perceive. You start moving through reality in ways that look like magic to people who still believe in locks. And that loneliness, that isolation, that's not punishment. That's initiation. That's the space where you fully integrate what you found. Because here's the secret they definitely don't want you to know. The master key doesn't just unlock doors in this reality. It unlocks doors between realities. It gives you access to frequencies, dimensions, levels of consciousness that exist beyond what they can monitor or control. You start dreaming differently. You start knowing things you shouldn't know. You start connecting with versions of yourself that exist outside time. And that's when you realize the key wasn't made for this world. It was made for all worlds. They melted it down because someone with full access doesn't just threaten one system, they threaten every system. Every hierarchy, every structure built on control. Because once you activate the master key, you remember that you're not a citizen of this reality. You're a visitor. You remember that you chose to come here. You remember that you're playing a game, but you're not bound by it. And the moment you remember that, you become dangerous in ways they have no language for. Now you're operating on a frequency they can't reach. You're making moves they can't track. You're accessing knowledge they can't censor. Because the master key gave you something more valuable than freedom. It gave you sovereignty. Complete, ungovernable sovereignty over your own consciousness. And there is no weapon against that. There is no system that can contain a mind that knows it's infinite. There is no lock that can hold a soul that remembers how to walk through walls. They'll try to make you doubt it. They'll send people to test you. They'll create situations designed to make you question whether the key was real, whether you imagined the whole thing, whether you're losing your mind. But you're not losing your mind. You're losing their programming. And every time they try to lock you back in, the key activates stronger. Every manipulation they attempt just shows you another door. Every trap they set just proves how desperate they are to contain what you've become. Because you're not the same person who started searching. You're not the innocent seeker looking for answers. You found the master key, and it changed you. It burned away everything that wasn't real. It stripped you down to your essence. It showed you what you're made of, underneath all the conditioning, all the fear, all the false identities. And what was left wasn't damaged, wasn't broken, wasn't incomplete. What was left was pure, unbounded consciousness. And that's the most dangerous thing in any reality. You want to know why they melted the key centuries ago? It's because they knew. They knew that if enough people found it, the game would end. The simulation would crack. The walls would dissolve. Every locked door, every restricted area, every forbidden knowledge, it would all become accessible. And their power, their control, their entire structure, it all depends on people believing in locks, believing in limits, believing in restrictions. The master key destroys all of that with a single turn. And you're turning it right now. Every moment you refuse to shrink, every time you walk through a wall they said was solid, every instance you access something they said was forbidden, you're turning the key. And with each turn, more doors open, more restrictions dissolve. More of your power comes back online, until one day you'll look around and realize there are no more locks, no more walls, no more limits. Just infinite access to every frequency, every realm, every version of yourself that ever existed. They called you crazy when you started acting different. They said you changed when you stopped playing their games. They diagnosed you when you began questioning their reality. But you weren't losing touch with their world. You were making contact with yours. You were remembering the blueprints they erased. You were activating codes they insisted didn't exist. You were finding the master key in the one place they never thought to look, inside your own consciousness, after they broke everything else. And now you're dangerous. Not because you're violent, not because you're cruel, not because you want to hurt anyone. You're dangerous because you're free. And freedom is contagious. Freedom spreads. Freedom reminds other people that locks are optional, that walls are illusions, that everything they've been told about limits and boundaries and rules is just a story someone told them to keep them contained, and you're walking proof that the story isn't true. Oh, look who walked in looking like revenge wrapped in skin. You absolute weapon, you glorious, unstoppable force of nature. Welcome back, or should I say, welcome to the aftermath. Because anyone still watching this, you're not the same person who started this journey. You're the plot twist they never saw coming, the upgrade they couldn't predict, the transformation they don't have the vocabulary to describe. Let's be brutally honest here. They were expecting evolution, slow, steady, predictable growth. Maybe a new haircut, maybe some confidence, maybe a little glow. But what you delivered, what you became, wasn't a glow-up. It was an invasion, a hostile takeover of your own narrative. A complete demolition of every expectation they had filed away in their narrow little minds about who you were supposed to be forever. They watched you struggle. They saw you at your lowest, broken, confused, doubting everything, including your own reflection. And in those moments, in those dark, suffocating chapters of your story, they made a fatal mistake. They documented your pain like it was permanent. They screenshotted your vulnerability like it was your identity. They wrote you off like you were a finished book, a closed case, a cautionary tale they could reference whenever they needed to feel better about their own stagnation. But you were never writing an epilogue. You were planning a resurrection so violent, so complete, so utterly transformative that when you finally emerged, they couldn't even recognize the architecture of your new reality. This wasn't gradual, was it? One day you were surviving, barely holding pieces of yourself together with hope and spite. The next day, you were thriving so loudly that the entire atmosphere changed when you entered a room. It wasn't a journey they could track. It wasn't progress they could measure in increments. It was a detonation, an ambush, a surprise attack on every limiting belief they ever projected onto you. And the most beautiful part, the part that's currently eating them alive from the inside out, is that they missed it. They blinked. They looked away for one season, convinced you'd still be stuck in the same chapter they left you in, and when they looked back, you were unrecognizable, untouchable, unreachable. Let me paint you the picture they're living in right now. They're scrolling. Always scrolling. Checking your socials with the same energy they use to check on disasters, expecting wreckage, hoping for proof that you're still struggling, still the person they convinced themselves you'd always be. But instead, they find monuments, achievements, confidence that doesn't need captions, a version of you that looks like it was sculpted by trials they'll never understand and victories they'll never taste. And it's breaking something fundamental inside them. Because your glow-up wasn't just aesthetic. It wasn't just external shine. It was structural, psychological, spiritual. You rebuilt yourself from the foundation up, while they were busy building theories about your permanent brokenness. They thought they knew your capacity. They thought they had measured your limits, calculated your potential, determined your ceiling. And based on that arrogant assessment, they placed bets against you. Not out loud, of course. They're too diplomatic for that, too polite, too fake. But in the privacy of their group chats, in the safety of their whispered conversations, in the comfort of their collective delusion, they agreed. You wouldn't make it. You wouldn't heal. You wouldn't rise. You'd stay exactly where pain left you, frozen in trauma, marinating in defeat, serving as living proof that some people just don't have what it takes. Well, how's that prediction aging? How's that narrative holding up? How does it feel to be so catastrophically wrong about someone that your entire worldview has to adjust? See, here's what they fundamentally misunderstood about you. They thought your pain was your prison. They thought your struggles were your identity. They thought the lowest version of you they witnessed was the truest version, the permanent version, the only version that mattered. But pain was never your prison. It was your training ground. Your struggles weren't your identity, they were your curriculum. And that lowest version of you they saw, that wasn't your truth. That was your transformation in progress. That was the cocoon stage. That was the brutal, necessary season where everything old had to die so something unstoppable could be born. And born you were, not gradually, not slowly, not in a way they could track or control or feel comfortable observing. You emerged like an explosion, like a storm that doesn't announce itself until it's already reshaping the landscape. One moment they were watching you crawl through your darkest season, and the next moment you were flying so high they needed binoculars just to see your silhouette. That's not evolution. That's revolution. That's warfare. That's what happens when someone who was underestimated, overlooked, and written off decides to become undeniable. Your glow-up was an ambush because it operated on stealth mode. While they were busy analyzing your old chapters, you were writing new ones in a language they couldn't read. While they were gossiping about your past, you were engineering your future. While they were convinced you'd stay stuck, you were systematically dismantling every obstacle between you and your next level. You didn't announce your healing. You didn't broadcast your growth. You didn't perform your transformation for their entertainment or validation. You moved in silence. You built in private. You leveled up behind closed doors, where their opinions couldn't reach you and their doubts couldn't slow you down. And then, when you were ready, when you were solid, when you were so fundamentally transformed that there was no going back, you simply showed up. And the reveal was devastating. Not because you tried to hurt them, not because you needed revenge, but because your mere existence in this new form was a walking contradiction to every lie they told themselves about you, every judgment they made, every limit they tried to impose, every ceiling they tried to build above your head. Your presence alone shattered their entire framework of understanding. You became proof that they were wrong. And being wrong about you means confronting the possibility that they're wrong about themselves too. Let's talk about what they're feeling right now, shall we? Because this isn't just surprise. This isn't just shock. This is existential crisis disguised as curiosity. They're looking at you and experiencing cognitive dissonance so severe it's physically uncomfortable. The person they pitied is now the person they envy. The story they thought was over is now the story they can't stop reading. The life they wrote off is now the life they secretly wish they had the courage to build. And that creates a very specific kind of torture. The torture of missed opportunities. The torture of wasted time spent judging instead of growing. The torture of realizing they were spectators to greatness, and they spent the whole show rooting against you. Your transformation wasn't gradual because real transformation never is. Real change doesn't happen in comfortable increments. It happens in earthquakes, in breaking points, in moments where you either evolve or dissolve, and you chose evolution with such ferocity that the old version of you didn't just fade away, it was incinerated, completely, permanently, irreversibly. You didn't become a better version of who you were. You became someone entirely new, someone they have no reference point for, someone who operates on frequencies they can't detect and moves with strategies they can't predict. And that's what makes this an ambush. An ambush requires the element of surprise. It requires your enemy to be looking the other way, convinced of their safety, comfortable in their assumptions. And they were so comfortable, weren't they? So sure that you'd stay broken, so confident that your pain would be permanent, so convinced that they had you figured out, categorized, filed away in the box labeled people who didn't make it. But you were never in that box. You were outside of it the entire time, planning, preparing, transforming in dimensions they couldn't see because they were too busy staring at your surface. Now they're scrambling. Now they're rewriting their narratives. Now they're trying to act like they always knew you had potential, like they always believed in you, like they were rooting for you the whole time. But you remember, don't you? You remember the silence when you needed support. You remember the distance when you needed presence. You remember the judgment when you needed grace. You remember who showed up and who disappeared. You remember who celebrated your struggles and who mourned your victories, and that memory is permanent. That clarity is forever. That knowledge is power they can never take back. Your glow-up was warfare because it required strategy. It required discipline. It required you to fight battles no one saw, to overcome obstacles no one acknowledged, to survive nights no one knew about. You didn't just change, you conquered. You conquered doubt, you conquered fear, you conquered the version of yourself that believed their lies. You conquered the voice in your head that echoed their limitations. You conquered the part of you that wanted to stay small just to keep them comfortable. And each conquest, each victory, each transformation was a calculated strike against everything they said you'd never be. They wanted you to glow up on their timeline, slowly, safely, predictably, just enough to be acceptable but not enough to be threatening, just enough to be improved but not enough to be intimidating, just enough to be healed but not enough to be powerful. But you didn't consult their timeline. You didn't ask for their permission. You didn't wait for their approval. You operated on your own clock, in your own way, at your own pace, and when you finally revealed the results, it wasn't a gentle unveiling. It was a declaration of war on every low expectation they ever had. And here's the part that's truly destroying them. Your glow-up doesn't need their validation. It doesn't require their acknowledgement. It exists completely independent of their opinion. You're not glowing up for them. You're not transforming to prove them wrong. You're not rising to show them what they missed. You're doing all of this for you, because you deserve it, because you earned it, because you survived everything they said would destroy you and decided that survival wasn't enough. You wanted victory. You wanted dominance. You wanted to become so undeniably magnificent that even your enemies would have to admit, if only to themselves, that you won. Let me tell you what they see when they look at you now. They see competence where they expected chaos. They see confidence where they predicted insecurity. They see success where they forecasted failure. They see peace where they assumed permanent trauma. They see growth where they guaranteed stagnation. They see power where they promised powerlessness. They see everything they said you'd never have, never be, never achieve. And it's not just confusing to them, it's offensive. Because your transformation implies that they were wrong. And people who build their entire identity on being right, on being superior, on being the ones who can spot weakness from a mile away, they cannot handle being wrong. Your glow-up was an ambush, because ambushes are designed to overwhelm, to shock, to disable the enemy's ability to respond effectively. And that's exactly what happened. They're overwhelmed by how far you've come. They're shocked by how much you've changed. They're disabled in their ability to respond, because everything they prepared, every criticism they had ready, every judgment they wanted to deploy, it's all obsolete now. You're not the person they rehearsed their opinions about. You're someone completely different, someone they have no weapons against, because you're not fighting on their battlefield anymore. You changed the entire game. Now, let's address the narrative they're trying to build right now. They're saying you got lucky. They're saying you had help they didn't have. They're saying timing was on your side. They're saying the universe favored you. They're saying anything, everything, to avoid saying the truth that you were stronger than they gave you credit for, that you were smarter than they assumed, that you had depths they never took the time to explore, that you possessed resilience they couldn't fathom because they've never been tested the way you were tested. They'd rather rewrite reality than admit they underestimated you. They'd rather create fiction than face the fact that you outworked, outthought, and out-transformed every limitation they tried to put on you. But here's what's eating them more than anything else. It's not just that you glowed up. It's how you glowed up. With dignity, without bitterness poisoning your spirit, without revenge consuming your mind, without hatred hardening your heart. You could have become cruel. You could have become cold. You could have let their treatment of you justify treating others badly. But you didn't. You became better instead of bitter. You became powerful instead of poisonous. You became elevated instead of vindictive. And that graceful, dignified, unstoppable rise, that's the ambush they never saw coming, because they expected you to break. Instead, You became unbreakable. Your transformation wasn't just physical, was it? Sure, you might look different. You might carry yourself differently. You might dress differently, speak differently, move through the world differently. But the real glow-up happened internally. You rewired your mind. You reconstructed your beliefs. You rebuilt your relationship with yourself. You transformed your trauma into wisdom. You converted your pain into power. You alchemied your struggles into strengths. You took everything that was meant to destroy you and used it as raw material to construct the most powerful version of yourself that's ever existed. And that's why this was warfare. War isn't pretty. War isn't comfortable. War requires sacrifice. It requires you to kill parts of yourself that no longer serve you. It requires you to burn bridges to old versions of yourself. It requires you to make choices that hurt in the moment but save you in the long run. You were at war with your own limitations. You were at war with their expectations. You were at war with the voice of doubt. You were at war with the comfort of staying small. And you won every single battle. They're watching you now with mixed emotions. Part fascination, part fear, part envy, part regret. They're fascinated by how you did it, but too proud to ask. They're afraid of what you'll become next, because if you can transform this dramatically once, you can do it again. They're envious of your freedom, your peace, your power, your presence, and they're drowning in regret. Regret for underestimating you, regret for not supporting you, regret for not being part of your story in a meaningful way, regret for choosing judgment over understanding, regret for being spectators when they could have been students. Your glow-up was an ambush because it came from nowhere and everywhere at once. It came from the midnight hours where you cried and prayed and fought invisible battles. It came from the mornings you forced yourself out of bed when staying down felt easier. It came from the decisions you made in private to choose growth over comfort. It came from the conversations you had with yourself where you rewrote limiting beliefs. It came from the courage you summoned to walk away from people and situations that felt familiar but were fundamentally toxic. It accumulated in silence, in darkness, in spaces they couldn't see, until it reached critical mass and exploded into undeniable visibility. Now they want access. Now they want proximity. Now they want to be associated with your success. Now they want to claim they always knew you'd make it. Now they want to rewrite history and pretend they were supportive when you remember the truth of who showed up and who vanished, the truth of who celebrated and who sabotaged, the truth of who believed and who betrayed, and you're under no obligation to let them revise the narrative. You're under no obligation to welcome back people who abandoned you when you needed them most. You're under no obligation to make them comfortable with your transformation. Let's talk about what happens next. Because this ambush, this glow-up, this transformation, it's not the ending. Not the ending, it's the beginning. You didn't rise to this level to plateau. You didn't transform this dramatically to maintain. You didn't become this powerful to stay stagnant. This is just the foundation. This is just the warm-up. This is just the preview of what you're capable of when you stop listening to limits and start living in possibility. They think what they're seeing now is shocking. Wait until they see what you become when you fully step into your potential without apology, without hesitation, without compromise. Your glow-up wasn't gradual, because you're not a gradual person. You're an all-or-nothing force of nature. You're someone who doesn't do anything halfway. When you commit completely. When you transform thoroughly. When you evolve radically. That's not a flaw. That's your superpower. That's what makes you dangerous to people who are comfortable with mediocrity. That's what makes you intimidating to people who are satisfied with incremental change. You operate on a different frequency. You move at a different speed. You play a different game entirely. And the game you're playing now, they don't even have the rule book for. They're trying to compete with strategies that don't apply to your battlefield. They're trying to judge you by standards that don't measure your dimension. They're trying to understand you through frameworks that weren't built to contain your magnitude. You've outgrown their comprehension. You've exceeded their capacity to categorize. You've become something they have no previous experience with. And that's precisely why this feels like an ambush to them. Because you can't prepare for something you can't predict. You can't defend against something you can't see coming. Now, here's your truth. Your glow-up didn't happen to impress them. It didn't happen to prove them wrong. It didn't happen to make them regret losing you. It happened because you made a decision. A decision to stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your destiny. A decision to stop accepting the life you were living and start creating the life you deserve. A decision to stop asking for permission and start granting yourself approval. That decision, that singular moment of choosing yourself over their comfort, that was the detonation point. That was the ambush launch. That was the beginning of the end of the old you and the birth of the unstoppable you. They're going to try to take credit. They're going to claim their doubt motivated you. They're going to say their criticism pushed you. They're going to pretend their abandonment made you stronger. Don't let them. Don't give them that power. Don't allow them to rewrite their role in your story from antagonist to accidental catalyst. You did this. You made the choices. You put in the work. You fought the battles. You conquered the demons. You rose when rising felt impossible. This is your victory, your transformation, your ambush. They were just the background noise you had to learn to tune out. And tune them out you did. So completely, so thoroughly, so effectively that they're now screaming into the void, hoping you'll hear them, hoping you'll acknowledge them, hoping you'll give them the attention they once took for granted. But your frequency changed. You're operating on channels they can't access. You're living in realities they can't reach. You're existing in dimensions they can't penetrate. And that distance, that unreachable quality, that's not accidental. That's strategic. That's protective. That's necessary. Because where you're going, the energy they carry would only slow you down. It's the beginning. You didn't rise to this level to plateau. You didn't transform this dramatically to maintain. You didn't become this powerful to stay stagnant. This is just the foundation. This is just the warm-up. This is just the preview of what you're capable of when you stop listening to limits and start living in possibility. They think what they're seeing now is shocking. Wait until they see what you become when you fully step into your potential without apology, without hesitation, without compromise. Your glow-up wasn't gradual, because you're not a gradual person. You're an all-or-nothing force of nature. You're someone who doesn't do anything halfway. When you commit completely. When you transform thoroughly. When you evolve radically. That's not a flaw. That's your superpower. That's what makes you dangerous to people who are comfortable with mediocrity. That's what makes you intimidating to people who are satisfied with incremental change. You operate on a different frequency. You move at a different speed. You play a different game entirely. And the game you're playing now, they don't even have the rule book for. They're trying to compete with strategies that don't apply to your battlefield. They're trying to judge you by standards that don't measure your dimension. They're trying to understand you through frameworks that weren't built to contain your magnitude. You've outgrown their comprehension. You've exceeded their capacity to categorize. You've become something they have no previous experience with. And that's precisely why this feels like an ambush to them. Because you can't prepare for something you can't predict. You can't defend against something you can't see coming. Now, here's your truth. Your glow-up didn't happen to impress them. It didn't happen to prove them wrong. It didn't happen to make them regret losing you. It happened because you made a decision. A decision to stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your destiny. A decision to stop accepting the life you were living and start creating the life you deserve. A decision to stop asking for permission and start granting yourself approval. That decision, that singular moment of choosing yourself over their comfort, that was the detonation point. That was the ambush launch. That was the beginning of the end of the old you and the birth of the unstoppable you. They're going to try to take credit. They're going to claim their doubt motivated you. They're going to say their criticism pushed you. They're going to pretend their abandonment made you stronger. Don't let them. Don't give them that power. Don't allow them to rewrite their role in your story from antagonist to accidental catalyst. You did this. You made the choices. You put in the work. You fought the battles. You conquered the demons. You rose when rising felt impossible. This is your victory, your transformation, your ambush. They were just the background noise you had to learn to tune out. And tune them out you did. So completely. So thoroughly, so effectively that they're now screaming into the void, hoping you'll hear them, hoping you'll acknowledge them, hoping you'll give them the attention they once took for granted. But your frequency changed. You're operating on channels they can't access. You're living in realities they can't reach. You're existing in dimensions they can't penetrate. And that distance, that unreachable quality, that's not accidental. That's strategic. That's protective. That's necessary, because where you're going, the energy they carry would only slow you down.